Marcus Chen leaned against the reinforced viewing port of Station Kethris, watching ships drift through the void like luminescent insects. His reflection stared back at him, a tired human face among thousands of alien dignitaries who pretended he didn't exist. That was fine. Being invisible kept him employed. The Valen Empire didn't hire humans for their charm. They hired them because humans were cheap, expendable, and too stupid to ask questions. At least, that's what the crystalline aliens believed. Marcus had learned to use their arrogance against them. While Valen security guards stood in perfect formations, admiring their own elegant efficiency, Marcus watched the shadows. Tonight's assignment was simple. Blend into the background during the Grand Sector Gala, and make sure nobody caused trouble near the freight airlocks. The Valens had their own guards protecting the important guests. Marcus was paid to watch the places they considered beneath their attention. It was boring work, but it paid for his ship's fuel and kept him fed. The gala hall stretched 3 stories high, all crystalline architecture that caught and refracted light into rainbow patterns. Valen nobles glided across the floor, their translucent bodies shimmering with bioluminescent patterns that signaled rank and house affiliation. They moved like living sculptures, perfect and cold. Music chimed from resonating crystal columns, a sound that made Marcus's teeth ache. He counted 6 Valen royal guards surrounding a cluster of particularly bright nobles. That would be the princess then. Princess Seriath, third in line for the throne, whose presence had turned this routine trade negotiation into a security nightmare. Marcus had been briefed to stay far away from the royal delegation. Humans touching nobility could trigger diplomatic incidents. Something felt wrong. Marcus couldn't articulate what bothered him. Maybe it was the way 3 servers had passed the same section twice without serving anyone. Maybe it was the slight delay in the environmental system's hum. Maybe it was just instinct, that peculiar human danger sense that Valens didn't seem to possess. Whatever it was, Marcus started moving. He crossed the gala floor slowly, angling toward the princess's position. Valen guards noticed him and stiffened. One raised a hand in warning. Marcus ignored them, his eyes scanning the upper galleries. There, a shadow moved wrong. Too purposeful, too focused. The attack came faster than Marcus expected. 3 assassins dropped from the gallery ceiling, their forms wrapped in refraction fields that bent light around them. They moved with the fluid grace of trained killers, quantum blades extending from their forearms, weapons designed specifically to shatter Valen crystalline biology. The royal guards reacted immediately, but they moved through defensive protocols, positioning themselves in formation. Too slow, too predictable. Marcus didn't think. He ran. His human legs drove him forward with a burst of acceleration that caught everyone off guard. Valens were elegant and strong, but human muscle fibers contracted differently, explosively. Marcus cleared 15 feet in seconds, slamming into Princess Seriath just as the lead assassin's blade descended. The quantum blade caught Marcus across the ribs and shoulder, instead of shattering the princess's crystalline spine. Pain exploded through his nervous system, white-hot and absolute. The weapon had been designed to disrupt molecular bonds in crystalline structures, but human flesh reacted differently. Instead of a clean shatter, the blade tore through muscle and bone, creating a massive laceration that split him open from shoulder to hip. Marcus hit the floor hard, his vision already graying at the edges. Somewhere above him, chaos erupted. Valen guards engaged the assassins with crackling energy weapons. Alarms shrieked. The princess was screaming something in her musical language, but Marcus couldn't focus on the words. Blood poured from his wound. Red blood, rich with iron, impossible by Valen standards. It pooled on the pristine crystal floor, spreading in a dark stain that reflected the gala's lights. Marcus had never seen so much of his own blood before. It seemed wrong that there could be so much inside one person. The assassins hadn't expected resistance from a human. Their hesitation cost them. 2 were struck down by Royal Guard fire. The 3rd triggered a personal shield and retreated, vanishing into the station's ventilation systems. The entire attack had lasted perhaps 20 seconds. Princess Serieth knelt beside Marcus, her crystalline hands hovering over his ruined torso. She was speaking rapidly, giving orders, but Marcus couldn't hear her anymore. The edges of his vision had gone dark and fuzzy. Cold spread through his limbs, which seemed backwards because he was bleeding, and bleeding meant warmth leaving the body, didn't it? Hands grabbed him. Valen medics, he thought, though their touch felt strange against his skin. They were being careful, almost delicate, as if afraid he would break. Marcus wanted to laugh. He was already broken. The quantum blade had seen to that. They lifted him onto an anti-gravity stretcher. The movement sent fresh waves of agony through his body, and Marcus's vision whited out completely for several seconds. When he could see again, he was moving through corridors at high speed, crystalline walls blurring past. The princess was still there, keeping pace with the stretcher, her luminescent patterns flickering with colors Marcus didn't recognize. The medical bay appeared suddenly, all sterile surfaces and humming equipment. Valen physicians swarmed around him, their movements efficient but uncertain. They weren't used to treating humans. Their medical knowledge focused on crystalline biology, on structures that could fracture but not bleed, on bodies that were more mineral than organic. One physician was scanning his wound with a device that projected holographic data. She made a sound of distress, her body flashing amber. Others gathered around the display, their patterns shifting to colors that Marcus's fading consciousness interpreted as shock and confusion. His body was already trying to heal itself. That was the last coherent thought Marcus had before the pain medications finally reached his system and dragged him down into darkness. His human immune system was already mobilizing, clotting factors racing to seal the massive wound, white blood cells flooding the damaged tissue, platelets forming barriers against further blood loss. Processes that the Valen physicians had never witnessed because their species couldn't heal from serious injuries. When Marcus Chen opened his eyes again, everything had changed. He didn't know it yet, but his blood on that crystal floor had done more than save a princess. It had revealed a truth the Valen Empire had spent millennia ignoring, that humanity was not primitive, just different, and differences could be dangerous. The Queen was watching now, and queens did not forget debts or opportunities. Marcus woke to the sound of crystal chimes and immediate regret. His entire torso felt like someone had tried to remove his organs with a rusty spoon. He tried to sit up and managed approximately 3 inches before his abdominal muscles staged a violent protest. "Do not move." The voice was melodic, like wind through glass sculptures. Princess Serieth materialized beside his bed, her crystalline form catching the soft blue light of the medical bay. "The physicians say you are healing, but they do not understand how. Your body does impossible things." Marcus settled back against the medical bed, which had been designed for Valen physiology, and felt like sleeping on a countertop. "How long was I out?" 3 of your days. We thought you would die." Serieth's luminescent patterns shifted to a deep purple that Marcus guessed meant concern. "You lost what the physicians calculated as 40% of your blood volume. For any species we know, this is fatal. But your body simply made more." "Yeah, that's kind of our thing." Marcus carefully touched the bandages across his ribs. Beneath them, he could feel the ridge of healing tissue. The wound still hurt, but it was the deep ache of repair rather than the sharp agony of active trauma. "Humans are tough to kill. We evolved that way. Evolution. Serieth repeated the word like she was tasting something exotic. We have studied your species' biological data, the violent adaptation patterns, the redundant systems, the aggressive immune responses. Your world must have been horrific to produce such creatures. Australia had some rough neighborhoods, Marcus said, then immediately regretted the joke when Serieth's patterns flickered with confusion. Never mind. Can I leave? I appreciate the medical care, but I'm guessing my contract ended when I got stabbed. Serieth's patterns went very still. In Valen body language, Marcus had learned, stillness meant complicated emotions they didn't want to display. About your contract, there have been developments. Before Marcus could ask what that meant, the medical bay doors opened. 6 royal guards entered in formation, followed by a Valen who made Princess Serieth look dim by comparison. This newcomer stood nearly 8 feet tall, her crystalline body shot through with veins of pure gold that pulsed with light. Her patterns cycled through colors Marcus had never seen before, complex and hypnotic. Matriarch Velisara, Serieth said, bowing deeply. Mother. The Queen. Marcus tried to sit up again, and this time succeeded through sheer stubborn determination. He wasn't going to meet galactic royalty while lying down like an invalid. Queen Velisara studied him with eyes that seemed to contain entire galaxies. The human who bled for my daughter. I am told your sacrifice was quite dramatic. I was doing my job, Marcus said carefully. Protection detail includes stopping assassins. Your job was to monitor freight airlocks. The Queen's voice carried no inflection, but somehow that made it more intimidating. You were not contracted to protect Princess Serieth. You were not authorized to approach the royal delegation. Yet you did both, and nearly died in the process. Why? Marcus considered his answer. The truth seemed safest. Because it was the right thing to do, and because your guards were too slow. Several of the royal guards made offended sounds. Serieth's patterns flashed amber in alarm, but Queen Velisara's patterns brightened with what might have been amusement. Too slow, she repeated. Yes, you moved with remarkable speed. Our analysis of the security footage shows acceleration patterns that should have torn your muscle tissue. Yet here you are, 3 days later, already healing. Your species is full of surprises, Marcus Chen. We're adaptable, Marcus said, not liking where this conversation was heading. It's kept us alive. Indeed. The Queen glided closer, her movements utterly silent. Which brings me to the matter of your new contract. As you saved my daughter's life at the cost of your own blood, you have entered into what our culture calls a gratitude bond. This is a sacred debt that can only be repaid through service. Effective immediately, you are assigned as Princess Serieth's personal guard. The contract term is indefinite. Marcus felt ice slide down his spine. Indefinite, as in permanent, Serieth said quietly. Her patterns had gone a dark blue that Marcus associated with built. I am so sorry. I tried to tell her that you would not want. What you want is irrelevant, the Queen interrupted. The gratitude bond is law. You shed blood to preserve royal life. That blood creates an obligation that supersedes personal preference. You are blood-sworn now, Marcus Chen. You belong to the royal house of Valen. I'm a human citizen, Marcus said, hearing his voice go flat and dangerous. I have rights under Terran law. You can't just claim ownership. I am not claiming ownership. I am honoring an ancient tradition that predates your species' discovery of fire. The Queen's patterns shifted to cold silver. You accepted employment within Valen territory. You acted to preserve Valen royal life. The law is clear. However, if you wish to dispute this, I can arrange for a legal tribunal. It will take approximately 7 of your years to resolve, during which time you will remain in custody pending judgment. Marcus stared at her, recognition dawning. This wasn't about gratitude or tradition. This was a trap. The Queen had known exactly what would happen when she offered him the diplomatic protection contract. She'd been planning this. Why? He asked. Why go through this elaborate setup? If you wanted a human guard, you could have just hired one. I did not want a guard, Queen Velisara said. I wanted proof. Proof of what? Proof that humanity is not the primitive species we believed. Proof that your biology contains adaptations we cannot replicate. Proof that your kind represents a variable the Empire has not accounted for. The scan shifted, showing Marcus's healing wound. Time-lapse imagery revealed his flesh knitting back together at a rate that made Sereth gasp. Immune cells swarmed like a military campaign. New blood vessels formed. Damaged tissue was broken down and rebuilt. We cannot do this, the Queen said simply. Our species, our biology, when we break, we stay broken. We must replace damaged components like machines. But you regenerate. You adapt. You survive trauma that would kill any Valen. And if one human can do this, what can millions do? Marcus understood then. This wasn't about gratitude. It was about fear. The Valen Empire had ruled for millennia because they believed themselves superior to all other species. But here was a human, young, scarred, nothing special, who had survived what should have been fatal, who had moved faster than their guards, who healed from wounds that would have shattered their crystalline bodies. You want to study me, Marcus said. Turn me into a lab experiment. I want to understand what your species represents, the Queen corrected. And I want you here, where I can control the narrative when news of this incident spreads. Because it will spread, Marcus Chen. Already other species are hearing that a human protected a Valen princess. That creates instability. So I'm a political prisoner with extra steps. You are bloodsworn, the Queen said firmly. You will serve as Princess Sereth's guard. You will submit to medical monitoring, and you will comport yourself as befits your new station. In return, you will have access to resources beyond your previous imagination. You will want for nothing, except freedom. The Queen's patterns flickered with something Marcus couldn't read. Freedom is overrated. Security, purpose, belonging, these matter more. You will come to understand this. She turned to leave, her guards falling into formation around her. At the doorway she paused. The assassins who attacked my daughter, they are still at large. 2 cells at least, possibly 3. Whoever hired them wants Sereth dead. Your blood-sworn oath now requires you to prevent that. I suggest you heal quickly, human. My daughter's life depends on your strange biology. Then she was gone, leaving Marcus alone with Sereth and the crushing weight of a contract he'd never meant to sign. The princess approached hesitantly. I truly am sorry. If I had known what Mother planned. Did you know, Marcus asked, about the gratitude bond law? Sereth's patterns dimmed with shame. Yes, it is taught to all royal children, but I never thought. Humans are not supposed to understand our legal codes. Mother must have planned this from the moment she hired you. Marcus lay back on the medical bed, staring at the ceiling. Somewhere out there, Earth's government would be filing protests. His contract would be analyzed by lawyers who specialized in interspecies law. Maybe, eventually, someone would figure out a loophole. But the Queen was right about one thing. The assassins were still out there. And whatever else had happened, Marcus had thrown himself in front of a blade to save Sereth's life. That wasn't something he could just walk away from. Contract or no contract. Tell me about these assassins, he said finally. Everything you know. If I'm stuck here, I might as well do the job properly. Sereth's patterns brightened with cautious hope. You will stay? I don't have much choice, Marcus said. But your mother made a mistake. She thinks she can control this situation. She thinks keeping me here contains the problem. But humans have a saying, you can't put the genie back in the bottle. She's already shown the galaxy that we're not what they thought we were. That's going to have consequences she can't predict. What kind of consequences? Marcus smiled, and it wasn't a friendly expression. The kind that empires don't survive. But first we need to keep you alive. So start talking. Who wants you dead, and why? Outside the medical bay, in the crystalline corridors of power, Queen Velisara reviewed the security footage again. She watched the human move with impossible speed, watched him bleed red across her pristine floors, watched him survive what should have killed him. She had thought she was capturing a useful asset, a biological curiosity to study and control. She had not considered that she might be opening a door that could never be closed. But queens did not admit mistakes, they adapted. And if this human wanted to play politics, she would teach him exactly how dangerous the Valen court could be. The game had begun, and Marcus Chen had no idea what he'd walked into. Marcus stood in the princess's training hall, watching Valen guards practice combat forms that looked more like ballet than fighting. They moved with crystalline precision, each motion flowing into the next, beautiful and completely predictable. He'd been studying them for 2 weeks, and he'd identified 47 exploitable patterns. "You are frowning again," Seraph said from her observation platform. "Does their technique displease you?" "Their technique is excellent for fighting other Valens," Marcus said. "Against anything that doesn't follow the same movement patterns, they'd get shredded." The captain of the guard, a towering Valen named Koreth, overheard and flashed an offended crimson. "You presume to critique the Imperial Guard? Your species was swinging through trees when we perfected these forms." "Yeah, and while you were perfecting forms, my species was learning to survive saber-toothed tigers, rival tribes, and environments that actively tried to kill us." Marcus stepped onto the training floor. "Want to see what that looks like?" He didn't wait for permission. Marcus moved, and the Valen guards scrambled to track him. But tracking wasn't catching. Marcus used every dirty trick human evolution had given him. Explosive acceleration from bent legs, sudden direction changes that exploited superior flexibility, feints that triggered the guards' protocol-based responses. In 15 seconds, he'd tagged 3 guards with training markers and rolled behind cover. Koreth's patterns blazed with fury. "Dishonorable tactics! You fight like an animal!" "I fight to win," Marcus said, breathing hard. The exertion had pulled at his healing wound, but the pain was manageable. "Your assassins won't follow your rules. They proved that when they attacked from above. When's the last time your training included vertical threats?" The silence that followed was telling. Seraph descended from their platform, her patterns cycling through thoughtful greens and golds. "He is not wrong, Koreth. The assassins exploited our predictability. Perhaps we should learn from this." "Learn from a human?" Koreth made a sound like breaking glass. "Your Highness, with respect, this creature is barely civilized. His methods are crude." "His methods kept me alive," Seraph said quietly, "which is more than our perfect forms accomplished." That evening, Marcus was summoned to the Queen's private chambers. He went with growing unease, escorted by guards who refused to look at him. The royal residential wing was even more elaborate than the rest of the palace, all soaring architecture and light patterns that shifted with the time of day. Queen Velisara waited in a room that appeared to be carved from a single massive crystal. She stood before a holographic display, showing reports from across the empire. As Marcus entered, she dismissed the data with a gesture. "You embarrassed Captain Koreth today," she said without preamble. "He's demanding your removal from the Royal Guard." "He's welcome to try beating me in a fair fight," Marcus said, "though I notice he didn't volunteer for the demonstration." "Fair fights are irrelevant. Politics are what matter." The Queen turned to face him fully. "News of your incident has spread exactly as I predicted. 3 minor species have filed inquiries with the Imperial Science Council, requesting information about human biology. 2 have offered substantial credits for human genetic samples. The Shentari Consortium has put a bounty on live human subjects for medical experimentation. Marcus felt his blood run cold. You can't be serious. I am always serious. Your species has gone from ignored to valuable in less than a month. This creates complications. The Queen pulled up new displays showing news feeds from across the Empire. Marcus's face appeared in several, though the details varied wildly. Some reports called him a hero, others labeled him an anomaly that needed to be contained. One particularly inflammatory piece suggested that humans were a secret warrior caste bred by an unknown power. This is getting out of control, Marcus said. You need to release a statement, clarify what actually happened. And say what? That a single human moved faster and endured more than our royal guards? That your primitive biology contains advantages we lack? Every word we say will be analyzed for weakness. The Queen's patterns shifted to dark amber. Better to control you directly than to try controlling the narrative. Is that why you dragged me here? To remind me I'm your prisoner? I brought you here to show you this. The Queen activated another display, and Marcus's stomach dropped. It showed Earth, his homeworld, rendered in perfect detail from deep space scanning. Your planet currently hosts approximately 11 billion humans. The majority live in conditions the Empire would classify as primitive. Minimal space presence, fragmented governance, frequent internal conflicts. By every standard metric, humanity should be irrelevant. But, Marcus prompted, knowing there was more. But you are not irrelevant. Not anymore. Other species are asking questions. If one human can do what you did, what could a million do? What could a billion? The Queen zoomed in on Earth's major population centers. Your world is resource-rich and strategically positioned near 3 major trade routes. It has been ignored because you were deemed too primitive to be worth the diplomatic effort. That assessment is being reconsidered. Marcus understood immediately. You're saying Earth is in danger. I am saying Earth is now interesting, and in galactic politics, interesting is often fatal. The Queen dismissed the display, which is why you will remain here, demonstrating that humans are useful but controlled. You will be the model for human-Valen cooperation. You will show the galaxy that your species knows its place. And if I refuse? Then I release you immediately. You return to Earth, and I file a formal report with the Imperial Council noting that humans are dangerously unpredictable and may pose a threat to galactic stability. 3 senior council members already advocate for preemptive action against emerging species. Give them an excuse, and they will sterilize your planet from orbit. The casual way she said it made Marcus's blood boil. You're threatening genocide to make me cooperate? I am explaining consequences. You want to protect people, Marcus Chen. It is your nature, apparently. So, protect them. Stay here. Play the role of loyal guard. Show the galaxy that humans can be integrated into civilized society. Or go home and watch your world burn from space. The Queen's pattern shifted to cold silver. Choose. Marcus wanted to hit something, preferably the Queen's smug crystalline face. But violence would only prove her point about human unpredictability. So he forced himself to think instead. You're lying, he said finally. The Empire wouldn't commit genocide over one incident. That would trigger sanctions, maybe even intervention from other powers. You're trying to manipulate me. Am I? The Queen pulled up classified documents bearing Imperial Council seals. Marcus couldn't read the Valen script, but the images were clear enough. Fleet deployment orders, orbital bombardment protocols, planet classification updates. Earth's designation had been changed from monitoring to potential threat assessment. The Empire has sterilized 17 species in the last millennium, Velisara said quietly. All were deemed too dangerous to integrate. All showed military potential that exceeded their technological development. Your species has survived natural selection pressures that killed everything else on your world. You are persistence predators with pattern recognition abilities that rival our best artificial intelligences. You heal from catastrophic injuries. You adapt to environments that should kill you. And there are billions of you. She leaned closer, her patterns unreadable. So no, Marcus Chen, I am not lying. I am offering you a choice. Be the example that saves your species, or be the martyr that dooms them. Either way, history will remember you. But only one path lets humanity survive. Marcus stood there, trapped between fury and helplessness. Everything the Queen said might be a lie designed to control him. Or it might be the absolute truth. He had no way to verify it, no way to contact Earth, no leverage at all. Except one thing. If I stay, he said slowly, I want concessions. Real ones. Such as? Open Earth's embassy. Give us a seat at trade negotiations. Start treating humanity like a partner instead of a problem. And stop the medical experiments. I've seen the reports, Belisara. Your physicians want to vivisect humans to understand our healing. That ends now. The Queen considered this. You bargain from a position of weakness. No, I bargain from the only position that matters. You need me cooperative, not resentful. You need humanity to look at me and see success, not martyrdom. Give us respect, and you might actually get the partnership you claim to want. Keep treating us like lab rats, and eventually, we'll bite back. For a long moment, the Queen said nothing. Then her pattern shifted to something Marcus had never seen before. A deep, complex gold, shot through with purple fractals. You are either very brave or very foolish, she said. Possibly both. Very well. I will open Earth's embassy, one seat at minor trade negotiations, and the medical experiments will be limited. But in return, you will do more than guard my daughter. You will help train our forces, share human combat techniques, teach us to understand your kind. Why? So you can fight us better when you decide we're too dangerous? So we can fight alongside you when the real threats emerge. The Queen pulled up new displays showing regions of space Marcus didn't recognize. The assassins who attacked Seriath? They use technology that does not match any known faction. Someone is supplying resources to destabilize the Empire. Someone who likely sees the same potential in humanity. That I do. If they reach Earth before we establish proper relations, your species will be weaponized against us. Or you're making that up to justify keeping me here. Believe what you wish. But ask yourself, why would I expend this much effort on one human if I did not see genuine value in your species? I could have let you die on that gala floor. I could have suppressed all news of the incident. Instead, I gave you medical care that cost more than your previous year's salary, and I am offering your homeworld diplomatic recognition. The Queen's patterns brightened. I am many things, Marcus Chen, but I am not wasteful. I see humanity's potential. The question is whether you can see past your pride long enough to secure your species' future. Marcus thought about Earth, about his family in Shanghai who hadn't heard from him in weeks, about billions of people who had no idea their entire world's fate might hinge on decisions being made light years away. I'll train your guards, he said finally. I'll play the loyal protector for your political theater, but I want regular communication with Earth. No censorship, no delays, and I want other humans brought here. Diplomats, scientists, soldiers, people who can verify what you're telling me and start building real relationships. Agreed, provided they are carefully vetted. By both sides. The Queen's patterns flickered with what might have been respect. You learn quickly. Very well. By both sides. Now, there is one more matter. She pulled up surveillance footage from the station attack. We have identified the assassins. They belong to a faction called the Purity Council. Valens who believe in the old ways, when our empire knew its enemies and kept the lesser species in their place. They see my daughter's reforms as weakness. They see your presence as contamination. They'll try again, Marcus said. Undoubtedly. Which is why tomorrow you will begin formal integration into the Royal Guard. Korath will hate this, but he follows orders. You will learn our protocols, our technology, our methods, and in return, you will teach them to think like humans, unpredictably, adaptively, dangerously. You want me to corrupt your perfect guards. I want them to survive the next assassination attempt. Perfection is a liability when facing chaos. The Queen gestured to the door, dismissing him. Go rest, Marcus Chen. Your real training begins tomorrow. And try not to antagonize Korath too much. He is proud, but he is not stupid. He will learn from you, given time. Marcus left the Queen's chambers with his head spinning. He'd entered thinking he was a prisoner. He was leaving as something else. A diplomat, a trainer, a symbol. The weight of it pressed down on his shoulders like gravity from a heavier world. Sarieth met him in the corridor, her patterns anxious. What did Mother want? To remind me that I'm playing a bigger game than I thought, Marcus said, and to make sure I understand the stakes. I am sorry, Sarieth said quietly. I never wanted you trapped here. Yeah, well, maybe being trapped is relative. Marcus looked at the princess, really looked at her. She was young by Valen's standards, barely into her second century. She'd been sheltered, protected, taught that the empire was eternal and right. But she'd also questioned her mother's methods, had tried to help him, despite the political cost. Sarieth, why do they want you dead? Your mother mentioned reforms, but she didn't explain. The princess's patterns dimmed. Because I believe the empire is wrong. About everything. About lesser species. About our supposed superiority. About the future. I have studied the historical cycles. Every empire falls, always for the same reason. They become too rigid to adapt. I want to change that. I want the Valen Empire to evolve before it shatters. And the Purity Council wants to kill you for it. They want to kill me to send a message that change will not be tolerated, that the old ways are absolute. Sarieth looked at Marcus with galaxy-deep eyes. You saved my life, Marcus Chen. Not because you were paid, not because of any contract, but because it was right. That kind of instinct, that moral clarity, it is what my people have lost. We have forgotten how to act without protocols, without perfect forms and ancient traditions. Alive. Marcus felt something shift in his understanding. The Queen saw humanity as a resource to exploit or a threat to contain. But Sarieth saw them as teachers, as a reminder of something the Valens had lost in their crystalline perfection. Tomorrow, I start training your guards, Marcus said. Your mother wants me to teach them human tactics, but maybe I should teach them something else first. What? How to break the rules when the rules are getting you killed. Marcus smiled. How to survive instead of just existing. How to be messy and chaotic and alive. Think Korath is ready for that? Sarieth's patterns blazed with sudden laughter colors. Korath is not ready for you at all. This'll be entertaining. Or it'll get me killed. Perhaps both, Sarieth said. But you are human. You will heal. Marcus touched the scar across his ribs, feeling the ridge of new tissue. That's what humans did. And maybe, just maybe, he could teach an empire to do the same. Before it was too late. The training hall became Marcus's laboratory for controlled chaos. Every morning for 3 weeks, he'd shown the Valen guards something new about human combat philosophy. Today, he was teaching them to cheat. Combat is not about honor, Marcus said, facing 12 of the Empire's elite guards. Korath stood at the back, his patterns a disapproving gray. It's about winning. The assassins who came for Princess Sarieth didn't challenge you to honorable duels. They attacked from ambush, used surprise, exploited your protocols. So we're going to learn to do the same. He gestured to the training setup he'd arranged, a mock corridor with multiple entry points, hiding spots, and vertical access. Scenario: you're escorting the princess through a station. Intelligence says threats are possible, but not confirmed. How do you proceed? One of the younger guards, Velrin, stepped forward. Standard formation. 4 guards in cardinal positions, 2 elevated, weapons ready. We maintain sight lines. And, you're dead, Marcus interrupted. You just announced exactly where you are and what you're doing. Any competent attacker watches you set up and plans accordingly. He pointed to the mock corridor. Try again, but this time, think like prey trying not to get eaten. The guards looked confused. Valens didn't have natural predators. Their evolutionary history involved competition for resources, not survival against things with teeth. Prey? Korath said, his patterns flashing, offended crimson. We are the Imperial Guard, not... Everyone's prey to someone bigger, Marcus said. Humans learned that early, so we got good at not being easy targets. Velrin, take your team and escort this training dummy through the corridor. Pretend it's the princess. I'm going to try to kill it. If I succeed, you run the scenario again until you stop me. The guards conferred, patterns flickering with debate, then moved into formation. Standard protocol. Exactly as they'd been trained. Marcus gave them 60 seconds to get into position. Then he moved. He didn't attack where they expected. Instead, Marcus accessed the maintenance crawl space above the corridor. A space Valen guards never considered because it was beneath them, literally and figuratively. He moved fast and quiet, tracking the guards' positions by sound. When he was directly above the training dummy, he dropped. The impact scattered the formation. Marcus grabbed the dummy and rolled behind cover before the guards could reacquire targets. 5 seconds, start to finish. Dead princess, Marcus announced. Reset and try again. They ran the scenario 11 times. On the 12th attempt, Velrin finally thought to post a guard watching the ceiling. Marcus adapted, using a different approach. He'd hidden a remote noisemaker earlier that mimicked weapon discharge. When it activated, the guards focused on the false threat. Marcus came from the opposite direction. On the 15th attempt, they stopped him. Barely. Velrin had split the team into mobile pairs instead of rigid formations, and one pair caught Marcus mid-approach. It wasn't elegant, but it worked. Better, Marcus said, breathing hard. The exertion had him sweating, which the Valons found fascinating and slightly disgusting. You adapted instead of following protocol. That's the key. Protocols are predictable. Adaptation is survival. Your methods are dishonorable, Korath said, but his patterns had shifted from disapproving gray to thoughtful amber. But effective. I dislike this. Good, Marcus said. Comfort gets you killed. Discomfort means you're learning. That afternoon, Marcus met with a group he'd come to think of as the Invisible Delegation, representatives from species that serve the Empire in menial capacities. There was Crix, a 4-armed Tekon who worked in waste reclamation. Shola, a Maruvian whose species maintained the station's biological systems. Jan, a Quellis, who processed data too tedious for Valon attention. They met in a service corridor, far from Valon oversight. It is dangerous for you to be seen with us, Crix said, his multiple eyes rotating nervously. The Valons do not approve of fraternization between species. The Valons don't approve of lots of things, Marcus said. Doesn't make them right. I wanted to ask you all something. The contracts that bind you to Imperial service, are they similar to what the Queen did to me? The 3 aliens exchanged glances. Shola spoke first, her bioluminescent patterns dimming. All lesser species serve under binding contracts. Mine was signed by my world government 2 centuries ago, in exchange for mining technology. I was assigned to this station before I was mature enough to understand what that meant. I have served for 43 years. Can you leave? Theoretically, if I complete my service term of 200 years, or if I die. The Valens are generous that way. They do not bind corpses. Marcus felt anger building in his chest. That's not service, that's slavery with extra steps. It is the Empire, Jan said quietly. The Valens provide technology, protection, access to trade routes. In exchange, we provide labor, resources, compliance. Many worlds consider this a fair exchange. Do you? Silence. Then Crix laughed, a chittering sound. No one asks what we consider fair. We are tools. Tools do not have opinions. Tools don't organize secret meetings either, Marcus pointed out. You're talking to me for a reason. What is it? The three aliens looked at each other again. Finally Shola spoke. We heard what you did. Saving the princess. Surviving wounds that should have killed you. There are stories spreading through the service levels. That a human defied the Empire and lived. That you are changing things. I'm not defying anything. I'm trapped here just like you. But you fight, Crix said. You question. You make the Valens uncertain. We have served for generations, and never have we seen a lesser species make the Empire uncertain. It gives us hope. Foolish, perhaps, but hope nonetheless. Marcus understood then. They didn't want him to save them. They wanted him to prove it was possible to push back, even slightly, against a system that seemed eternal. I can't promise anything, he said. I'm barely keeping myself alive here. But I'm documenting things. The contracts, the conditions, the way the Empire treats species it considers lesser. Maybe someday that documentation matters. Or maybe it gets you killed, Shola said. The Purity Council hates you. There are rumors of another assassination attempt. There are always rumors. The princess has enemies. I'm just the guard who got inconveniently hard to kill. The princess is not the only target, Jan said carefully. We have heard things. Fragments of communication, incomplete data. But the pattern suggests the Purity Council wants to eliminate both the princess and you. Killing her removes the reformist heir. Killing you removes the symbol of human defiance. 2 problems solved. Marcus absorbed this. When? Unknown. Soon, perhaps. There is a gala next week, honoring the anniversary of the Empire's founding. Major security event, many dignitaries. Traditional targets for those who want to make statements. The Queen will have maximum security. The Queen will have traditional security. Protocols and formations and all the things you have spent 3 weeks proving are inadequate. Crix's eyes focused on Marcus. You have shown the guards new methods. But have you taught them to think about internal threats? About security personnel who might be compromised? About the fact that the Purity Council likely has sympathizers within the Guard itself? Marcus went cold. He hadn't. He'd been so focused on external threats, on teaching unconventional tactics, that he'd never considered infiltration from within. I need to talk to Sereth, he said. And probably the Queen, if there are traitors in the Guard. Proof is difficult, Jan interrupted. Accusations without evidence will only create paranoia and division. The Purity Council understands this. They have been patient, establishing positions over years. They will not be exposed by speculation. Then what do I do? What you have been doing, Shola said. Make the Empire uncertain. Change the patterns. Force the conspirators to adapt to your chaos. When they do, they will reveal themselves. It is what humans do. Yes? Disrupt and survive? Marcus nodded slowly. It was a risk, but everything about his situation was a risk. At least this one might protect Sereth and expose the real threat. That evening, he requested an audience with the princess. They met in her private study, a crystalline chamber filled with data displays showing economic reports, cultural analyses, and political projections. The gala next week, Marcus said without preamble. We need to cancel it. Sariet's patterns flickered surprise. Cancel the founding anniversary gala? That is impossible. It is the most important event in the imperial calendar. Mother would never. Then we need to change the security setup. Completely. No standard protocols, no predictable formations. We treat it like a combat zone. Marcus, you are frightening me. What have you learned? He told her about the meeting with the service workers, about the warnings of internal threats. Sariet's patterns dimmed as he spoke, cycling through colors that indicated deep concern. If the Purity Council has infiltrated the Guard, she said slowly, then no one is trustworthy. Korath himself could be compromised. Anyone could be. Not anyone. You trust me, right? With my life, you have proven that. Then let me handle the gala security. Give me authority to select the team, to set up unconventional defenses. We make it so unpredictable that any conspirators can't plan around it. Mother will never allow a human to command her royal guard. So we don't tell her. You're the principal. You have the right to approve your personal security detail. Select me and whoever I designate. Let the Queen have her traditional setup for the other dignitaries, but your protection is mine. Sarieth considered this, her patterns shifting through complex calculations. If you fail, if anything happens to me, Mother will execute you. You understand that. If anything happens to you, I'll deserve it, Marcus said. I didn't ask for this blood-sworn thing, but it's real now. I'm not letting you die because we followed protocols that everyone knows are inadequate. You would challenge centuries of tradition? I'd challenge gravity if it meant keeping you alive. Traditions are just habits that got old. Some habits need breaking. For a long moment, Sarieth studied him. Then her patterns shifted to warm gold. Do you know what I find most remarkable about humans? You treat loyalty as an action, not an obligation. Valens are bound by law, by tradition, by complex webs of duty. But you choose. Every day, you choose to honor your commitment. That makes it more powerful, not less. I'm just stubborn, Marcus said. My mom always said I couldn't tell when to quit. Perhaps stubbornness is what the Empire needs. Sarieth pulled up schematics of the gala venue. You have my authorization. Select your team, design your security plan. But Marcus? Yeah? If you are wrong about this, if there is no threat, and you create a diplomatic incident by treating loyal guards as potential enemies, the political consequences will be severe. And if I'm right, and we stop an assassination, then you will have saved my life again, and the Empire will have to acknowledge that human instincts are worth trusting. Sarieth's patterns brightened. Either way, next week will be interesting. Try not to start a war. No promises, Marcus said, but I'll do my best. He spent the next 6 days preparing. Velrin volunteered for his team immediately, having learned to appreciate Marcus's unconventional approach. 2 others from the training sessions joined. Guards young enough to adapt, experienced enough to be competent. Marcus vetted them carefully, watching for any signs of Purity Council sympathy. They seemed clean, but he knew that meant little. He designed security based on human military principles. Overlapping fields of fire, no predictable patterns, constant movement, multiple backup plans. He identified 17 potential attack vectors and created responses for each. He memorized the venue layout so thoroughly he could navigate it blind. And he waited. The gala approached like an oncoming storm. Somewhere in the glittering crowd of dignitaries and nobility, assassins would be waiting. The Purity Council had been patient this long. They would not miss their opportunity. Marcus checked his weapons for the 100th time. Energy sidearm, fully charged. Backup pistol in ankle holster. Monofilament blade strapped to his forearm. Combat stimulants in case he needed to push his body past normal limits. He was as ready as he'd ever be. But ready didn't mean safe. It just meant prepared to face whatever came next. And in an empire built on certainty and tradition, Marcus Chen was about to prove that chaos could be a weapon, if he survived. The founding anniversary gala transformed the imperial palace into a cathedral of light. Thousands of Valen nobles filled the grand hall, their crystalline bodies creating a sea of shifting colors and patterns. Dignitaries from across the empire mingled beneath vaulted ceilings that stretched hundreds of feet high, carved from single massive crystals that refracted light into cascading rainbows. Marcus hated every inch of it. Too many sightlines, too many entry points, too many places for an assassin to hide among the glittering crowd. The traditional security setup, rigid formations of guards in ceremonial positions, looked impressive, but was strategically worthless. They were decorations, not defenders. "Status check," Marcus said quietly into his comm unit. His team was scattered throughout the hall, invisible among the service staff and minor functionaries. Velrin responded first. No unusual movement. 2 more confirmations followed. Marcus tracked Sarieth visually. She stood near the center of the hall, conversing with a delegation from the outer sectors. Her patterns were formal purple gold, diplomatic and measured. She looked calm. Marcus knew better. He'd seen the tension in the way she held herself. Queen Velisara presided from an elevated platform, surrounded by her traditional guard. Koreth commanded that unit personally, his patterns rigidly formal. The captain had protested Marcus's separate security team, but ultimately couldn't overrule the princess's direct authorization. Now, he pretended Marcus didn't exist, which suited everyone fine. "Contact," Velrin's voice crackled. "East Service Corridor, restricted access, 3 Valens in maintenance uniforms. Credentials check out, but movement pattern is wrong." "Define wrong," Marcus said, already moving. "Maintenance staff meander. These 3 are moving like they have an objective." Marcus keyed a different channel. "Sarieth, shift northwest, casual conversation pattern. Don't make it obvious." He watched the princess smoothly extract herself and drift toward a new cluster of nobles. Good. That put 3 pillars between her and the East Service Corridor. He reached Velrin's position via a route that kept him out of the main hall's sightlines. The young guard pointed toward a section where the palace's elegant facade gave way to functional architecture. 3 Valens in gray maintenance uniforms were accessing a service elevator that shouldn't have been operational during the gala. "Could be legitimate," Velrin whispered. "Environmental systems need constant monitoring." During the biggest event of the year, when all non-essential systems are locked down, Marcus studied the 3 Valens. Their patterns were muted, neutral, which itself was suspicious. Real maintenance workers showed emotional responses, boredom, or frustration, or satisfaction. These 3 displayed nothing. They're either very professional or very controlled. Orders? Marcus considered. Confronting them directly could expose innocent workers to hostility if he was wrong. But letting potential threats access restricted areas could be fatal if he was right. Follow them. Don't engage unless they approach the main hall or the princess's position. And get me a layout of wherever that elevator goes. Velrin pulled up schematics on his wrist display. Elevator accesses upper galleries, environmental control, and the central power distribution node. Marcus's blood went cold. The power node? The one that feeds the defensive shields? Yes, if someone disabled it during the gala. The palace would be vulnerable to external attack. Marcus activated the team channel. "All units, we have potential hostiles accessing critical infrastructure. Maintain princess protection, but be ready for coordinated assault. This might be a 2-pronged attack." He followed the 3 Valens into the service elevator, staying far enough back to avoid detection. They ascended toward the upper levels, talking quietly among themselves. Marcus couldn't hear the conversation, but their body language suggested familiarity, coordination. They'd done this before. The elevator stopped at the power distribution level. Marcus took the next elevator up, then used maintenance ladders to drop down to their level from above, a route Valens rarely considered because their species disliked climbing. He moved through the infrastructure crawl spaces, tracking the three suspects by sound. They weren't hiding. They walked through the power node facility like they belonged there, accessing terminals and running diagnostics. One pulled up holographic displays showing the palace's defensive grid. Another began entering command sequences. Marcus activated his comm. "Velrin, I need backup at the power node. These are not maintenance workers. They're—" The facility lights went red. Emergency protocols activated, and the Valens suddenly moved with combat efficiency, drawing weapons that had been disguised as maintenance tools. "Trap," Marcus snarled, diving for cover as energy blasts scorched the air where he'd been standing. "It's a trap. They knew someone would follow." An explosion rocked the main hall. Marcus heard it through the walls, a massive detonation that sent structural vibrations through the entire palace. Screams followed, distorted by distance, but unmistakable. "Sarieth," he shouted into the comm. No response, just static. One of the assassins spoke, her patterns blazing with fanatic conviction. "The Purity Council sends its regards, human. Your princess dies tonight. Your kind will not corrupt our empire any longer." Marcus didn't waste breath on responses. He moved. Human evolution had given him advantages these Valens didn't expect. He could metabolize adrenaline into explosive speed. His joints flexed in ways crystalline biology couldn't match. And he'd been training in low-gravity combat since he was 15. The power node's reduced gravity was an asset, not a hindrance. He came out of cover firing, his shots forcing the assassins to scatter. They were good, professionally trained, but they fought like Valens, with elegant precision and predictable patterns. Marcus fought like a human, cornered and desperate. He threw a tool crate to create cover, rolled through energy fire that would have killed him if it connected, came up shooting from an angle they hadn't anticipated. One assassin went down, her crystalline torso shattered by a direct hit. The second activated a personal shield, but Marcus had learned from watching Valen training. Shields were optimized for energy weapons. He drew his monofilament blade and threw it like his survival instructor in Mongolia had taught him. The blade punched through the shield and embedded in the assassin's shoulder. Not fatal, but disabling. The third assassin was already running, heading for a secondary exit. Marcus let her go. He needed to reach Sarieth. The main hall was chaos when Marcus arrived. The explosion had collapsed part of the East Gallery, sending crystalline debris raining down on the crowd. Nobles were fleeing in panic, their patterns blazing with terror. Royal guards struggled to maintain order while searching for threats. And in the center of the devastation, Marcus saw what he'd feared most. Sarieth was down. She lay behind an overturned table, her patterns flickering weakly. Two of her traditional escort guards were dead beside her, their crystalline forms shattered beyond repair. A third was fighting desperately against 4 attackers wearing Purity Council insignia. They dropped all pretense now, openly declaring their allegiance. Marcus ran. His healing wounds screamed in protest, his lungs burned. Every impact of his boots against the crystal floor sent jolts through his abused body. None of it mattered. He'd promised to protect her. He'd failed once, he would not fail twice. He hit the attackers like a missile, using momentum and mass to scatter their formation. His energy pistol spoke 3 times in rapid succession, dropping 2 assassins before they could react. The third turned to engage him, and died as Velrin emerged from the crowd, firing with the controlled aggression Marcus had drilled into him. The 4th assassin was faster. She had a quantum blade already extended, and she drove it toward Sareth's exposed position. Marcus threw himself between them. The blade caught him across the side. Same location as the first attack weeks ago. Pain exploded through his nervous system, white-hot and absolute. But this time, Marcus was ready for it. He'd felt this before. He knew he could survive it. He grabbed the assassin's wrist with one hand and drove his other fist into what he'd learned was a vulnerable neural cluster in Valen anatomy. She staggered. Marcus wrenched the blade free and reversed it, driving it back toward its owner. She collapsed, her patterns going dark. Marcus fell to his knees beside Sarith. Blood poured from his reopened wound, but he ignored it. "Stay with me, princess. Talk to me." Her patterns flickered, barely visible. "Marcus, you are bleeding again." "Yeah, well, it's kind of my thing." He checked her for injuries. Her left arm was cracked, crystalline fissures spreading through the limb. Several smaller fragments had broken off her shoulder. For a Valen, these were serious wounds, potentially fatal if the fractures reached her core. Medical teams were arriving now, summoned by Velrin. They surrounded Sarith, activating emergency stabilization fields. One medic looked at Marcus's wound and made a distressed sound. "You need immediate treatment. The damage is something I've had before," Marcus said. "Stabilize the princess first." Queen Velisara arrived with a squadron of guards, her patterns blazing with fury. She took in the scene instantly. The dead assassins, her injured daughter, Marcus bleeding beside her. "Report," she commanded. Marcus stood, swaying slightly. Coordinated attack. They disabled communications and power infrastructure while hitting the main hall. At least 7 attackers, probably more. 4 confirmed dead, 3 escaped. The princess is stable, but needs advanced medical care. "And you are injured. Again. Saving my daughter. Again." The queen's patterns shifted through colors Marcus couldn't interpret. "It seems humanity has a talent for dramatic sacrifice." "We have a talent for not dying easily," Marcus corrected. "There's a difference." Koreth approached, his patterns subdued. "Your Majesty, the humans' unorthodox security measures saved Princess Sarith's life. The traditional guard positions were specifically targeted by the explosions. If she had been protected conventionally, she would be dead." The queen looked at her guard captain for a long moment. "You are suggesting the human was correct? That our ancient protocols were inadequate?" "I am suggesting," Koreth said carefully, "that enemies who study our protocols can exploit them. The human operates without protocols. This makes him unpredictable. Unpredictability appears to have strategic value." Marcus would have laughed if he weren't bleeding. Getting Koreth to admit anything positive about human methods was like getting a star to acknowledge darkness. "Take Marcus to medical," the queen commanded, "and summon the Imperial Council. We have traitors to root out and policies to reconsider." She looked at Marcus directly. "You and I will have a conversation when you have healed, about humanity's future role in this empire. Apparently, we have much to discuss." Medical teams descended on Marcus, but he kept his eyes on Sarith until they took her away on a hover stretcher. Only then did he let himself collapse. He woke 3 days later in the same medical wing as before. This time, his wound had been treated with a combination of Valen medical technology and human biological data. The physicians had learned from his first injury. The healing was progressing faster, more efficiently. Sarith visited on the 2nd day of his consciousness. Her arm had been repaired using advanced techniques that basically rebuild crystalline structure from genetic templates. She would heal, though the scars would remain forever. Visible reminders of vulnerability. "The Purity Council has been dissolved," she told him, her pattern soft gold. "Mother arrested 47 conspirators. More are being investigated. The evidence you helped gather from the power node revealed their full network. They had been planning this for years. I didn't gather evidence, I just followed suspicious maintenance workers." "You trusted your instincts. You acted when others would have hesitated." Sarith's patterns brightened. Mother is formally offering Earth Associate membership in the Empire. Not full membership. That would require your world government to agree to terms they might refuse, but associate status. Trade rights, diplomatic recognition, protection under imperial law. It is unprecedented. She's buying humanity's cooperation. She is acknowledging humanity's value. There is a difference. Marcus thought about Earth, about billions of humans who would soon learn they were part of something larger than their world. This is going to change everything. Everything was already changing, Seraph said. You simply accelerated it. The Empire cannot continue as it was. Other species are watching what happened here. They see that a human saved a princess twice, that human methods defeated Veylan assassins, that humanity is being offered partnership instead of subjugation. They will want the same. And that scares your mother. That excites her. Velisara is many things, but she is not stupid. She sees what I see, that empires built on supremacy eventually collapse. But empires built on cooperation can endure. Sariat's patterns shifted to something Marcus had come to recognize as affection. You were right, Marcus Chen. Humans do teach us to be alive again. Messy, chaotic, unpredictable life. It is terrifying and wonderful. I still want to go home someday, Marcus said. See my family, walk on real soil instead of crystal floors. This isn't where I belong. Perhaps, but you have made a place for yourself here regardless. The guards are calling you bloodsworn with respect now, not mockery. The service workers speak your name with hope. Even Korath admits you have value, though it pains him to say it. What about you? What do you call me? Sariat's patterns went very bright, warm gold mixed with purple undertones. I call you friend, the truest one I have ever had. You bled for me without obligation, fought for me without protocol, questioned everything for me without fear. That is friendship beyond any bond law could create. Marcus felt something in his chest that had nothing to do with his healing wound. For all the politics, the manipulation, the forced contracts and galactic power games, something real had emerged. Connection, trust, maybe even purpose. When I heal, he said, I want to set up proper human-Veylan exchange programs. Not just military stuff, but culture, science, art. Let people from both species actually meet each other instead of just reading reports. Break down the assumptions on both sides. You want to build bridges. I want to make it so no other human gets trapped like I did, and no other princess has to die to prove change is necessary. Marcus managed a smile. Besides, if we're doing this partnership thing, we should do it right. My mom always said if you're going to do something, do it properly or don't do it at all. Your mother sounds wise. She always said I needed friends who'd keep me from doing stupid things. But you continue to do stupid things regardless. Yeah, well, some habits are harder to break than others. Sarius' laughter was like crystal chimes in wind. They talked for another hour, planning futures that seemed impossible just months ago. When she finally left, Marcus lay back and stared at the ceiling. He'd come to this empire as a cheap mercenary, ignored and expendable. He was leaving this medical wing as something else. A symbol, a bridge, maybe even a catalyst for change. He hadn't chosen any of it, but he'd survived it, and in surviving, he'd proven something the Empire needed to learn. Just different. That differences could be strengths, not weaknesses. That even the most powerful empire in the galaxy could learn from a species they dismissed as irrelevant. Outside the medical wing, in crystalline halls that stretched across worlds, change rippled outward. Earth's governments were receiving diplomatic overtures. Human scientists were being invited to imperial research facilities. The first human diplomatic mission was being assembled. And somewhere in the service levels, among the invisible workers who kept the empire running, whispers spread. That a human had defied tradition and survived. That he'd made the empire bend. that change, once impossible, was now inevitable. Queen Velisara watched it all from her throne room, her patterns unreadable. She'd wanted to control the narrative, to contain the human variable. Instead, she'd unleashed something she couldn't stop. But perhaps that was acceptable. Empires that couldn't adapt died, and the Valen Empire, for all its ancient glory, had been dying slowly for centuries. Maybe it needed a human to remind them how to live. She pulled up the medical reports on Marcus Chen one more time. The human who wouldn't die, the guard who fought like chaos incarnate, the bridge between worlds. Send for him when he heals, she told her aide. We have work to do, and apparently we need human stubbornness to do it properly. Marcus Chen had shed his blood to save a princess. Now he would give his service to save an empire. Not because he had to, because he chose to. And that choice would echo across the stars for generations to come.